Oh, well, I guess, it's video. Alrighty, so we're going to go over some of the basic topics from Jainism today, or, that we've learned in my class so far. And then at the end, once we go through the slides, because there's like 11 or 12 of them, once that's over, then I guess we can just do like a Q&A with you guys and just like do like a little discussion session so that we can just talk about the stuff that's more interesting for y'all instead of me just feeding it to you. So, one of the basic foundational principles of Jainism is ahimsa. The word itself, himsa, means violence, and ahimsa obviously means non-violence. And it's kind of like the root of everything in Jainism. So the whole concept is not to cause any harm to yourself or any, this is another one of our guests, or any other living being. And when they talk about, non-violence, they don't just mean like our type of violence, like aggression. They mean like even any type of negativity. So like if I were to think a negative thought about somebody, then that's considered to be like a form of mental violence. So so that's a huge foundational principle there. The reason why it's so important, ahimsa, is because they believe that all living beings are on this path towards enlightenment, towards what they call moksha. And basically if you were to cause any harm to any other living being, if you were to kill something, for example, like if you were to kill an animal to eat it, then you would be interrupting that animal's path towards enlightenment. And then you would also be damaging your own path towards enlightenment because you just did that. And then, let's see. I had another thing I was going to say there. I forgot it. Next. Okay, so vegetarianism is also the one, there's tons of different eating habits and whatnot throughout Jainism. Some people are like, okay. Some people stick to traditional things, like they won't eat after dark, or they're really keep out where their spices and things come from. So they stick to more traditional things, but not everybody does that. Some people are a little bit more relaxed. But vegetarianism is really, really strict. There's not a Jain who is not vegetarian. And that's because of this concept, because if you were to kill something and interrupt its path to enlightenment, then
why is it better if you eat after dark?
I don't know, actually. We never really talked about that. Good question.
Does they might swallow a bug or a gnat?
No, I don't think that's the reason, but they do have other measures that they take to try to prevent swallowing bugs and gnats and microbes, where they'll wear a little cloth cover over the mouth. But that has two purposes, and this isn't all Jains, again, this is just only some people do this. But it has dual purpose, where one of them is to prevent from inhaling or ingesting on accident any kind of bugs or things in the air, but also it's to prevent them from speaking, or so it's inhibiting speech, because a huge part of Jainism is renouncing everything. So speech is one of those things that they try not to do. So you can refrain from speaking, that's part of, Okay, please forgive my pronunciation on these words, but they have these figures in Jainism that are kind of the pillars, the role models of what's going on in the whole deal. The Jinas and the Tirthankaras, I believe. The Jinas are basically the role models of Jainism. They're enlightened souls who have reached moksha. They've escaped the cycle of rebirth, which is kind of similar to what they do in Hinduism, kind of if you're familiar with that concept. But just to be clear, Jainism is not a branch of Hinduism, it's a completely different thing. But yeah, so they've escaped that cycle of rebirth. They have total freedom from all attachments, and that includes your name, your worldly possessions, feelings, things like that. So basically at this point, they are just a soul. And then 24 of these Jinas became the Tirthankaras, and the last of them was Mahavira. Mahavira is considered to be a contemporary of Buddha, and he kind of shaped modern day Jainism. he's considered to be like the biggest, I guess, kind of an idol or an icon for them. But at the same time, they don't worship Mahavira because they don't worship anybody. There is no God in Jainism, so they just kind of use these figures as role models and like ways that they should live or like should structure their lives. A little bit more about Mahavira. So he was alive around here from 599 to 527 BCE. He was born as a prince, so he was born into like a really high class, like his dad was a king, obviously. And he lived as a prince until he was 25 years old, but he wanted to become a monk. But I guess his parents didn't want him to do that. They didn't want that to be. Oh, sorry, babe. So yeah, they didn't want him to become a monk because to be a monk is kind of like it's very difficult for the family because you have to like renounce everything. So you don't have family connections. You don't. Basically, it's kind of the modern day version of like your kid going to war or like joining the military, is because they're going to be gone. And although it's honorable, you kind of grieve for it a little bit. So then he basically just waited for them to die. And when they died, he was 30 years old, so then he became a monk out of his own free will. He spent 12 years in extreme denunciation, so he like denounced everything. And he achieved enlightenment in an extremely short period of time by doing that. So then after he had achieved enlightenment, he was still alive, of course, but he spent the next 40 years kind of just like going around India and teaching about Jainism and trying to teach people how they can also reach enlightenment. And actually when he died, he basically chose to die, which was interesting. Okay, karma. The first thing that I think is interesting about this is that the soul is considered to be in the shape of your body. It doesn't necessarily like that way, but I think it's kind of interesting because then like if you were to reach enlightenment or achieve moksha as a human, then your soul would go on into that realm of the universe in like a human shape. But if it were to happen like as a dog, then it would go as dog shape, you know. So yeah. But the soul is in the shape of the body. What they think of karma is that it's basically like dust particles that can be good or bad, and they stick to your soul. So yeah, and karma's kind of like, it's interesting because there's good karma and there's bad karma, and then there's like harming and non-harming karma. So some of them are things that you can't control, and I think it's on a further slide. No, it's right here. So some of the things that you can't control are like the length of your life. For some reason that contributes to your karma, but it's a non-harming karma. So you can't do anything about it. But the people who achieve full enlightenment are the people who are the souls, I guess, who have completely rid all of their karma particles, so they don't have any dust on their soul, good or bad. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, how they categorize living beings is kind of interesting because they consider it to be based off of the senses that you have. So there are 5 senses that exist. Some beings have 1 sense, like a worm, they would say, only has like touch. And then 5 senses would be like dogs, humans, cats, etc. And they say humans have all 5 senses and we have like reason. And animals have all 5 senses and they have varying degrees of intelligence. But basically that kind of gives a sense of, I don't want to say value, but like awareness of that being, because at the same time that all things are of the same value as each other, like Bo and Luna would be the same exact value as my life, and like we're all the same value as the bamboo plant over there. They have varying degrees of like awareness in reality. So that's why it would be like a really, really bad thing to kill and eat an animal because of those 5 senses. Yeah, so that goes back to vegetarianism. A lot of Jains are centralized towards cities and they don't live out in rural areas because they don't farm. just because farming is considered to be violent, because you have to like, you know, mess with the land and like you're killing bugs and tearing up plants and doing all kinds of stuff when you're out there. So yeah, they don't do farming. And then animal markets was to me kind of an interesting thing that they do, because it's kind of powerful, because a lot of the animals that are moved through meat markets and whatnot, I'm sure it happens here, but there was like a video that we watched, and you know, they would just be like throwing sheets and like doing, you know, they're kind of brutal, and they don't have water, they're not fed, they're not in clean environments, and they're basically just kind of being abused for a really long time until they're finally killed and then eaten and sold in the markets. So the Jains will go around to these animal markets and spend like however much money they need to purchase the animals and save them, which is kind of sweet. Plants.
They do.
This is important to me, and I think it's interesting too. So Jains believe that plants have consciousness. They're aware of their environment and the changes that occur around them, so plants are not just stationary, nothing. They also believe that plants can experience desire, anger, fear, different kinds of like emotions. They can like want things, they can be sad, they can be protective, they can be possessive. I don't know if we have proof of that, but
Kind of like how plants grow towards the sun.
maybe, but I think more like how trees would retract their roots from their, like if a tree drops a seed and it grows a new tree, the parent tree will retract its roots so that the new one can grow.
Baby can grow. So it's almost like sympathetic to the baby.
Yeah. So to me, that's kind of what it connects to. And yeah, just like with animals and humans, plants have a soul, and so they're also on their way to achieve moksha. So that's, Jains try not to harm plants to the best of their ability. For example, like with vegetarianism, a lot of Jains will try to eat only certain plants that you can eat without killing the whole plant. So they won't eat things like potatoes and carrots and stuff like that because it's a root. So you have to completely kill the entire plant in order to eat it. So with a lot of other plants, you can just pick the fruits or harvest certain parts of the plants, but you don't have to actually kill the whole plant in order to feed yourself. There are 5 vows of Jainism. Ahimsa, we already went over, that's nonviolence. There are actual words for these things in the native language, but I really can't pronounce them, so I'm just telling you what they are. Non-accumulation, that mostly has to do with material things, of course. Truth is a big thing, not stealing, and then celibacy, which was added by Mahavira, so that was kind of like a newer thing. We talked about this in class for a while because we were like, well, you know, if these are the 5 vows, then how could anyone prior to Mahavira have achieved enlightenment? Yeah, but obviously not everybody sticks to this. But monks and nuns do, so that's a really big thing for the monks and nuns. Okay, and then this is Ajira. So Ajira in Jainism is what they call the soul. So Ajira are things with no souls. So motion, rest, atoms, space, time, more like matter, space and time. So these are things that like they don't have souls. They're just like the concept of time or motion can't have a soul, but most other things can have a soul. And then this one is a diagram of the Jain universe. So this is literally what they think that the shape of the universe is. And there's kind of a lot of lines going on here. But this is, the universe is in this shape. This realm is where the earth is considered to be. And then this realm down here is where hell is considered to be. They use the swastika because that was a symbol from, it's been around it's an ancient symbol. But it represents the 4 states of being. The 4 states of being are heaven, human, animal, and hell. And then they have these 3 little dots up here. This is considered the realm of enlightenment. So once you have reached moksha, then you go towards the front of the universe, and this is where you reside. These little 3 dots are like a reminder of what is required in order to get there. which is right faith, right conduct, and right knowledge. When they talk about those things, right faith is meant to be like utilizing the Jainism, the Tirthankara, as your model. Right conduct is following the 5 vows that we just went over, and then right knowledge is basically knowing that all souls in the universe are equally important and valuing them as such. Oh yeah, and then outside of this, they actually okay. So yeah, the universe itself they call loka, and then they define the outer space that's outside of the universe as aloka. Again, kind of like with the himsa and ahimsa, which is basically like this is not the universe. Like there's nothing out here. It's just a void, empty space. So the universe for them is a finite thing, but at the same time that it's a finite existence, it's on a cyclical time. So time doesn't have a beginning or an end for Jains. It always was there and always will be there, and that's it. Okay, so that's the end of what we have on here. So at this point, Q&A.
Who chooses Tankaras?
Nobody chooses them. They are just the ones who have basically achieved the highest level of enlightenment.
But I mean, who defines them? How are they defined? Like, you give them a name as...
How do they know when they reach that enlightenment?
Yeah, who defines them?
I don't know.
Ah, okay. Good answer.
I don't know.
Okay.
Do all people that practice Jainism have to abide by the 5 moral compass?
The 5 vows.
5 vows. There you go. That's what I was looking for. The 5 vows to maintain their status as a Jainism human.
I don't
person?
think that if you were to break one of the vows that you would no longer be a Jain, but I do think that it's kind of like similar to the 10 Commandments, maybe. It's something that like you really should live by, and like things that they say would be like, this is what it requires in order to be a good person, but it's not going to make or break. But at the same time, if your goal is to ascend your soul into enlightenment, then yeah, ultimately, if you're trying to break that cycle, then you should be following those vows.
If they do follow all of them, one being celibacy, then how do they procreate and create more people that are going to follow the vows and rules of Jainism?
Yeah, I think that basically it's just thought of as some souls are already elevated above others. So for example, the monks and nuns practice celibacy, but the lay people don't. So a lot of people are just going about their days, but that doesn't, like their souls are considered to already be at a lower level, and they just need to like work harder and be better.
So do they present people as a type of caste system in their society as to what level they've reached?
No.
So it's an individual perception of yourself?
No, there are certain things that kind of define, like for example, women are lower than men in terms of like...
So do women ever achieve enlightenment?
Yeah, but only by being reborn as a man first.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do they get all their like protein and stuff? They only eat like stuff that continues to live, like on the plants.
I mean, you can eat like vegetables and beans and seeds and stuff like that. So, yeah.
But what if like they're seasonal plants and stuff? Does that really matter?
I'm not very well scripted on the plants that grow in India.
They pretty much have a lot of stuff that grows year round because they're so temperate.
Yeah.
And James?
Well, except that they have a rainy season.
You know, I've never thought about what part. They're obviously not in the north, and they're not central. So what part do James live in? I guess they're kind of throughout, but what?
I think
Do they have a centralized area that they live? They must be coastal.
If I remember correctly, I want to say South India, but
Okay.
I don't know that that's 100% accurate. I think that's what I remember.
Yeah. So it's not north and central is Bombay. They're not on the east coast. Like, okay. So southern.
I think. I'd have to double
Kind
check
of look
on
that way too. Okay, I'll go with that.
it. Anything else? Yes.
How and what ways do you think Jainism has informed the Western philosophical tradition?
That's something that I think is like really important because I think Jains have a lot that they can teach Western practices, just purely based on how much they value other beings and how much effort they put in towards like the concept of ahimsa. And especially because the Jain community, I kind of compare it to like the Jewish community because it's such a small community, but at the same time, they have so many people who are very successful and, you know, like are outspoken in the community and really involved in things and big businesses and whatnot. So there's something that they're doing right, in my opinion. Something that they're doing is good. And so I think that there's a lot of aspects of it that can be applied to Western traditions or Western lifestyle, but it's really hard to do that specifically in America just because we don't want to like impose religion upon people. So I think what we can do is look at what's working and why, and how is this creating such a happy society that treats things with so much value, and how can we take those values and apply it to our own society. So that's what I think. Anything else? Cool, thanks for coming.